Missing 5-year-old Oakley Carlson. The little girl from Grays Harbor County hasn't been seen for more than a year and a half. And today we learned Governor Inslee pushed for a review of the investigation into her disappearance.
He wants to know if there was any wrongdoing by the Department of Children, Youth and Families, which oversees Child Protective Services. The governor sent a letter to the director of the State Office of the Family and Children's Ombuds calling for an investigation. It comes after pressure from a large group of advocates in Grays Harbor County, demanding answers about what was or was not done to make sure that Oakley was okay after she was returned to her biological parents. Neither of them has cooperated in the investigation to find Oakley. At a news conference today, the governor said he just got back the results of the investigation.
Obviously, we are all concerned about that case, and so I wanted to find out if there's anything amiss that had not been done correctly. And according to this letter, it came back and reported that the department had acted in compliance with existing rules and regulations. It doesn't mean that we're still not concerned about the case, but I'm pleased that we got that back.
However, the letter did say the agency needs to find ways to strengthen the parent-child bond when a kid is removed from a home, basically saying that Oakley's parents should have gotten more time to visit her in foster care. I broke that news to Jamie Jo Hiles, Oakley's foster mother, who raised her from an infant until she was 3 years old, when she was forced to give the little girl back to her biological parents. She's outraged. Jamie Jo says she wants the department to, quote, show integrity and transparency and release the investigation in full that proves no wrongdoing on behalf of not only DCYF, but Washington State as well. If that can't be done, Hiles writes, then she wants an outside agency review of Oakley's DCYF case. She goes on to say that they want justice for their little girl and to make sure this tragedy never happens again. She says she talked to Patrick Dowd, the Ombuds director and recipient of the governor's letter, and told him that she called CPS twice, including after Oakley's parents reported a fire in their home. She believes that nobody followed up to check on Oakley or her siblings. Because Oakley has not been declared dead, DCYF does not have to release any information about her case. A community demanding answers in Grays Harbor County after the parents of a missing girl are locked up, refusing to help bring her home. Now the spotlight examines their sociopathic behavior.
They're not crying, they're not passionate about trying to find Oakley.
Plus, did social workers ignore phone calls warning that Oakley Carlson was being abused? Why can't you tell us whether an agent went and talked to the family or tested the family? Our investigation into the agency, tasked with protecting children, reveals a workplace culture of fear.
There's no way to do that job 100% correct.
As the foster mother who loved Oakley like her own, holds on to hope.
My mama heart wants to believe that she is alive out there.
Hello, I'm David Rose, on location with the Spotlight in Montecito, asking the question that everybody wants to know. Where is little 5-year-old Oakley Carlson? Take a look at these photos here. Burn her face into your memory. This gorgeous little girl, last seen February 10th of 2021. The community rallying together, offering more than $25,000 for tips to help find her. Meanwhile, her father, Andrew Carlson, is sitting in the Grays Harbor County Jail behind me, but he's getting out on August 3rd. And the first thing he'll see are these photos of his missing daughter. It's a picture filled with promise. Andrew Carlson and Jordan Bowers in early 2016. 6 years later, the parents at the center of the investigation into the chilling disappearance of their 5-year-old daughter, now sitting in separate cells.
I haven't done a lot of things correctly in the last 7 years or so.
Andrew and Jordan, both locked up after pleading guilty to child endangerment. They admitted to exposing Oakley's sister and little brother to meth. Jordan serving a 20-month sentence at the women's prison in Purdy. Andrew sentenced to a year in jail, but set for early release this summer. Neither has been charged in the disappearance of Oakley, last seen alive on February 10th, 2021.
Our goal is to find Oakley. Unfortunately, that might not be alive. It might be, we're doing remains, but we need to find her to move forward.
Detectives are getting no help from either parent, says Chief Investigator Darren Wallace with the Grays Harbor County Sheriff's Office.
They're not crying. They're not passionate about trying to find Oakley. It's very vague answers and very nonchalant answers with us.
The couple first met when Andrew was an Aberdeen police officer. Then a monumental fall from grace. He lost his badge and commission in 2017 for making false and misleading statements. His relationship with Jordan described as volatile, fueled by meth. Court documents showing Andrew was the more responsible parent to the 3 kids they shared, while Jordan was out hitting the slots and the pipe.
Her first love in life is to gamble.
Would she befriend, say, men or older men at the casino or strangers?
All the above to get money, for sure.
Who was keeping the kids when she was there?
Andrew was at home most of the time when she was gone.
Though she was usually hanging around druggies, detectives say there's no evidence that Oakley was sold off or trafficked. Have you been able to connect with the people that were selling them drugs? And do those people know anything?
We've talked to people that sold them drugs, used drugs with them.
All were cooperative, but they still want to speak with anyone associated with Jordan from last February to December 6th, the day Oakley's missing persons report was filed.
Little pieces of evidence or comments that someone may have said that puts the piece together and is like, oh, there it is.
In 2017, Oakley was taken away from her biological parents when she was about 7 months old and sent to live with Eric and Jamie Jo Hiles. Jamie Jo telling the Spotlight she and her husband instantly fell in love with the little girl with the precious smile.
She just had such a good impact, and it was such a good learning experience. Things that maybe I didn't think would be difficult were really difficult, but the memories and the joy that she brought us was just it's immeasurable.
The family's house in Elma is filled with photos of Oakley. During their time fostering her, Jamie Jo says she became concerned about Oakley's safety after Oakley returned from seeing her biological parents, Andrew Carlson and Jordan Bowers. She contacted the Washington State Department of Children, Youth, and Families, the agency that oversees foster families and child protective services.
When Oakley would come home from a visit and say that she saw somebody hit somebody between their parents, and they felt no concerns, that's a real concern to me. That's a really big concern to me, and I felt like it was just kind of brushed off.
Then, in 2019, right before Oakley turned 3 years old, the state returned her to her biological parents.
I was looking at an email several days ago from the social worker where she just told me she'll be back on the 29th of November, and that's all I was told. She'll be picked up at 10 a.m., have her stuff ready.
Jamie Jo doesn't believe Jordan or Andrew ever had the best interest of Oakley or her sister in mind when they petitioned the courts to return the children.
It was a game to them. It wasn't that they wanted their kids to love them. It was because they wanted to win. They wanted to win in the court system, and they wanted to win just because that's what they wanted. They wanted to win.
Jamie Jo raised this little girl. She saw her first steps, heard her first words, and she was so worried about her safety. She begged them not to take her away. Communities like Oakville are small, as you can see from our drone footage. People here know each other, and word gets around quickly. She heard that Oakley wasn't doing well.
The reason I called in January of 2021 was because I had been told through several other people that she looked like she had black eyes at Christmas. Christmas of 2020. I said that I had seen a photo, and I had also heard that there was abuse and that she looked unwell in December of 2020, and that I was very worried. And I would love to hear a recording of that call, because I'm pretty sure I remember the gentleman saying that I could get in trouble for making false accusations.
It's unclear what happened after her call to DCYF. It appears by that point that Andrew and Jordan were no longer required to undergo drug tests administered by DCYF. The last known sighting of Oakley occurred 2 weeks after that phone call on February 10th, 2021. That's when the Grays Harbor County Sheriff's Office says someone associated with the family saw Oakley. 9 months later, on November 6th, 2021, Andrew Carlson made a phone call to 911 from the property that sits at the end of this road. The house now guarded by a gate that's padlocked with a no trespassing sign. He told the operator that his daughter started a fire by putting a lighter to the couch, saying his daughter was 4 years old. Well, Oakley was 4 years old at that time. Later, fire investigators determined that that fire actually started in the microwave. So that story was not true. Add to that this home is about 10 miles from Oakville. In fact, if you take a look at our Spotlight drone footage, you'll see it's about a quarter mile from any of his nearest neighbors. We couldn't see anybody home. We saw the barn, we saw the main house, but no vehicles on the property. The entire situation seemed really bizarre to Jamie Jo. So again, worried about Oakley's safety, she called DCYF.
I was on hold at first for about 45-50 minutes, and my phone call lasted a total of probably 5 to 10 minutes. And it was very much I'm worried about this. I know that there's neglect in this family. I know that there's drug use. I'm very concerned.
Fire investigators visited the house after the fire and determined that it was started in the microwave, not the couch. After the fire, the Carlson family was staying at a motel in Tumwater. Oakville Elementary principal and family friend Jessica Swift told police that she was in contact with them almost every day, offering support and supplies. But she said she never saw Oakley and became concerned. Then, in December, Oakley's 6-year-old sister had a sleepover at Swift's house. Swift asked her about Oakley, and the child got upset and said, "Oakley is no more." When directly asked, she told Swift that her mother told her not to talk about Oakley because she had gone out to be eaten by wolves. That's when Swift called the Grays Harbor County Sheriff's Office requesting a welfare check. Tumwater police officers made contact with Jordan and Andrew at the hotel. They lied, saying that Oakley was with her grandparents. They were arrested for investigation of manslaughter, but were never actually charged with that crime. Since then, the Grays Harbor County Sheriff, State Patrol, and FBI have all searched for Oakley. What are the biggest challenges to trying to find her, given the terrain we're dealing with?
Yeah, so you've been out in the woods in these areas. It's not an open wooded, you can just walk through, there's blackberry bushes, briar patches, all that type of stuff. So it's really a lot of underbrush. You can't just walk through the woods and look for a 5-year-old girl. It's very difficult, very strenuous, and it takes a lot of labor to do it.
Where is Oakley?
Almost every weekend, protesters gathered outside the jail, chanting, demanding answers from Oakley's biological parents.
My mama heart wants to believe that she is alive out there.
But Jamie Jo knows there's a good chance that that's not true.
She might be dead. She might be somewhere across the United States. She might be in another country. She could be experiencing trauma.
She says as much as she and her husband Eric loved being parents, she's done with the foster care system in our state.
I will never, ever foster another child. And that's what's sad, is that I know that there are children that need homes. And I know my husband and I were amazing foster parents. But I could never, ever work with DCYF or another foster system again when it's as broken as it is. I know, though, that what's going to happen, and I hope what's going to happen, is when people request freedom of information, they're going to find out some stuff that is really going to make DCYF look horrible. Really bad.
The Spotlight filed a public disclosure request for records related to Oakley's case. Specifically, we wanted to know who visited Oakley to see if she was okay. Were any calls made to DCYF, and if so, calls, and what was done about them? Were any investigations opened on the case? Essentially, had anybody gone to check on her or to make sure that her parents weren't using drugs? And here's the response that we got from DCYF. Basically, it says, denied. Let me tell you exactly in the legal terms what they said here. It said that the state agency under federal and state law is exempt from disclosure under the Public Records Act. DCYF client records may be released with a court order or written waiver of confidentiality executed by the parent, child, and or legal guardian. If you disagree with this denial, you may request for a review by writing to Jody Arndt. You know what, Jody? I disagree. I disagree strongly with that request. And that's because in the past, we've sent your office other requests for public documents, including a case in Whatcom County involving a little girl who died there. And in that request, we got all kinds of documents. You redacted the medical records and all of the other sensitive information, but it gave us a timeline of what was done on the case. This time, when it comes to Oakley, there's no information. We have been cut out completely, which means the public has been cut out completely. Law enforcement has been cut out completely. What are you hiding? Did DCYF monitor Oakley? Were her parents tested for drugs? It's a simple question. We're just trying to find out what happened to this little girl and who's accountable. We didn't stop there. We went right to the top. When I come back, I'm going to talk to the head of DCYF, see what he has to say about who's fighting for justice for Oakley and who's to blame for not taking care of this little girl.
The whole concept of this reorganization is to have more prevention to prevent tragedies, so we have to have less reaction. We need to have a department which is dedicated to preventing these tragedies. You're going to have less tragedies. I'm convinced of that.
That was Governor Jay Inslee speaking in 2016 before his blue ribbon panel came back with a suggestion to roll up several different agencies into one large agency. That includes Child Protective Services, foster care, family assessment response, and early childhood education. In July 2017, the governor signed a law creating the Department of Children, Youth, and Families to do just that, and appointed Ross Hunter, a former Microsoft executive and state legislator, as secretary. 2 years later, oversight of juvenile rehabilitation and detention services were added to the agency. This week, I sat down with Secretary Hunter. Have you been to Grays Harbor County, drive through Thurston County, through Fife, and seen all the Oakley Carlson billboards that are up?
I have.
We have tried to get information from your office about whether anybody went and saw her parents through the entire year where nobody had seen her, drug test them, just see if she's doing okay. And we have been stonewalled, the agency, your agency, telling us that because of the privacy laws, they're not going to respond.
That's correct. That's what they're saying, and I'm going to say the same thing here.
Yeah, but it's a legal gray area because just because she's not declared dead, you know, who is advocating for Oakley? Who is answering the questions about how Oakley was protected?
We have a number of ways that people can look at child welfare records. And when there's an active criminal investigation, we are usually asked by both our attorney generals and by the investigating law enforcement agency to not interfere in their investigation.
But you have two parents in jail, but yet your office can't tell us that they are, and the other two kids had meth. One ingested meth, the 2-year-old, the 6-year-old had meth. An agent went and talked to the family, or tested the family.
Because I can't violate the privacy rights of that child or that family. That's the nature of this. And these interviews are
change then? Do we need an Oakley's law? Do we need something to answer this gray area? Because it is an unusual case, I get that. But, you know, what if she's never found? Will we never know what your office did?
I can't answer the legal question on that. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. Do you need a different thing? Again, you got a trade-off here. Do you want to live in a state where the CPS system can CPS investigations, whether they do or don't find anything? The legislature makes that choice.
A law enforcement source told me that it seemed like DCYF sure closed ranks on this quickly because maybe you guys didn't do anything. Maybe you didn't go check on the parents and see if they were using drugs again. Is there any truth to that?
So I think I just answered that question in that I don't think I can talk specifically about this case.
Yeah.
And I can give you the same answer over and over again. I don't think that will be very satisfying for you.
No, I don't think anybody's satisfied. We all want to know. We want to know where Oakley is. Right. But we also want to know that there's not going to be kids are not being returned to parents who are going to amphetamine addiction, knowing what steps were taken. Parents deserve to have their kids back. They clearly didn't deserve to have their kids back. Your office tested the other two kids in December. The 2-year-old had more methamphetamine in their system than your charts could even register when they did the tests. So that means the 2-year-old was ingesting methamphetamine.